To give further detail on the law enforcement side of this, Sheriff Bob Mosier, Mosier, will speak on behalf of the Sheriff's Office and the investigation. Also available is the Fauquier County Commonwealth Attorney Scott Hook, Hook, to talk about anything dealing with extradition and questions along those lines. And also available, we have Tara Helkowski, and I will let her spell her name, if you want to ask questions regarding the school system and how this has affected the schools. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Sheriff Bob Mosier.
Thank you, Sergeant Hartman. And again, to members of the media, thank you for coming out because in part, you're responsible in helping us apprehend Mr. Norwood in North Carolina. But just as a recap, less than, I think it's about 30 hours ago, the Fauquier County Sheriff's Office responded to the 12,000 block of Elk Run Road in Midland, Virginia. And when deputies entered the property, they saw that there had been 2 people that had been killed, and that is the mother. It's already been told to you, Jennifer Norwood, and then also a 6-year-old little boy, Wyatt Norwood, and then injured was the father, Joshua Norwood, injured to a gunshot. So all 3 of the victims suffered upper body trauma, and in this situation we were able to learn that the suspect, Levi, was armed with a pistol. So now that investigation is ongoing and it still continues. We did search the home, and we're preparing documents, but now the bodies of the deceased have been transferred to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner to determine the manner and cause of death. Now, following up with this investigation, yesterday we embarked on an extensive search in the community, and we had our canine, our bloodhounds, tracking away from the house up into a different area, and it led us to an area where there was a motor vehicle reported stolen, and this is the 2007 red Toyota Camry. So we got that information, and working with our law enforcement partners, we took this information into a national system which alerts law enforcement of what we're looking for in the event that they come across the registration number. Well, I want to let you know that this is in part how this apprehension was made, but it also had to do with the good work of a loss prevention specialist with Target Corporation in Durham, North Carolina. It's reported that Levi Norwood was engaged in shoplifting, and he was spotted by a loss prevention specialist with that company and notified law enforcement. Durham Police Department responded to the location based on the shoplifting complaint, and they were able to determine, after being given a false name, some of the information that had been passed out within the law enforcement channels and also through the media, that we were looking for someone like this person that was at the Target there in Durham, North Carolina. They were able to conduct an investigation on the scene, and they wound up taking Levi Norwood into custody. Now, at that point, the vehicle that was reported stolen here in Fauquier County was located directly in that area in Durham, North Carolina. So since that time, we have seized the vehicle. It's been sealed. We haven't gotten into the vehicle. We're going to wait to bring it back to Virginia to conduct the examinations that would be normally required in this type of investigation, and then we'll have more information that we can provide at that time once we've done that. So that's a snapshot about where we are. Levi is in the custody of North Carolina authorities, and with me, of course, here today is our Commonwealth's attorney, who can talk to you more about that process and what that will look like. And then we also have members of our school division and also the Warrenton Police Department that's here with us as well. So at that point, I'll turn it over to our Commonwealth's attorney, Mr. Scott Hook.
Name is Scott Hook, like the pirate. Currently, Mr. Levi Norwood is in North Carolina. The extradition process will begin. I know you all have questions about the length. The length will be determined by what happens in North Carolina. Currently, North Carolina does participate in the same interstate compact authorized by our United States Constitution to extradite fugitives from one state to the other. We know that there is a hearing set for Tuesday in North Carolina. While this is a bit of speculation, that hearing will be about his, as a juvenile, whether he was going to seek counsel. I feel comfortable saying the judge would insist that he would have counsel when he would take the next step to determine in the extradition process. Now, we don't, at this point, we don't have anything to do with that process until certain decisions are made by North Carolina. Hopefully that will go quicker than longer, but like I said, we don't control that. That's determined in North Carolina. I believe, as the sheriff said, we currently have 2 petitions for murder charges against Levi, which are the vehicle to extradite him back to Virginia. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer to the extent I can answer, but that's all the Commonwealth's attorney's involvement is right now.
Do you plan to seek to try him as an adult?
That's something we're going to have to decide once we have him back in Virginia.
So this will start in J&D court?
Yes, yes.
Does anyone know whether he had a connection to North Carolina, relatives or friends or someone that helped him?
I would defer that to the sheriff's office. That's his side of the coin. Right.
Any accomplice on this end or anyone that might have helped him escape or?
I'll defer to the sheriff on
Okay,
this.
thank you.
Yeah, so to the first question about being in Durham, whether or not it had connections to the community there, not that we are aware of. Yeah.
Any connection, any help here while he was still in this area?
No, the indicators are is that he was by himself. He traveled out of the area, and when he was placed under arrest in Durham, North Carolina, there was no indication of anybody being with him at that time. Yes, sir.
Was he armed in the store?
So the indication is he was taken into custody, no firearm on his person. Yeah,
So a firearm hasn't been recovered at this point?
correct.
Were there more than one, was there more than one gun in the home and were they still there? Are you looking for them if not?
Yeah, so is any, and I'll speak in general terms. With any investigation, we do make an observation about the types of firearms that would not, any weapon for that matter, that would be in a place where there's been a crime committed. And so we would have that information, and whether or not there's anything missing or that type of thing, that would be a later determination as the investigation would follow. And again, that's for any generic investigation. Yes, sir.
What do we know about how he got from his family's home to the vehicle that he stole?
He was on foot.
He was on foot?
Yeah.
And what is that distance?
It's approximately 10 miles, I think, is what it is. Yeah, it's a good distance. And you know, again, being in a rural community, right? You can traverse areas of land, and you can go into barns and outbuildings, and you can extensively hide as you make your trek in the areas that you're going. If you're not familiar with this area, it's 660 square miles is the jurisdiction. It's about 70,000 in population, and it's a farming community. And so there's again large areas of land with outbuildings, barns, animals as you go through. And the route that Mr. Norwood took on foot, we did have a bloodhound that was able to track, and went up to the area where the car was stolen, reported stolen, and it ends there until we pick up the trail down in Durham, North Carolina. Yes, sir.
Where did the bloodhound pick up the trail? Was that in the vicinity of the house, or
Yes.
was it a distance from the house?
Yeah, no, it was in the vicinity of the house and
So
out.
you guys tracked him 10 miles?
Correct. Yeah. It's a good dog. Yeah.
Is anything else coming to light about the history of the Norwood home, any 911 calls or previous disturbances?
Yes, thank you. I remembered your question from yesterday, and we checked into it. So there was what they call a 911 hang-up call, but this was in 2018 before the sheriff before they moved into the home. So they were not, no one made a 911 call from that residence while the Norwood family lived in that home.
What
So
about the previous residents?
don't know, I don't have any information about them or the manner of the call, but we didn't have any reports other than a 911 hang-up.
Okay,
But there's no connection between the previous residents and the Norwoods, as I understand it.
Was the father able to call from like a cell phone or a neighbor's house to report this?
As I recall, and we can follow up with this with you, but it was from a cell phone.
So did he retreat from home? He walked in, according to the early release, and found his wife and son dead.
Correct.
And then at some point, he encountered his son.
Okay, so he encountered Levi inside the house. There was he was then the victim of a gunshot wound, and he retreated from the house. So at that point, Levi was still in the house at the point when he retreated, and then made the call to law enforcement to 911 to get assistance.
So Mr. Norwood was out front.
Yeah, well, yeah, he exited from the front of the house out to the roadway.
So it's believed then that Levi exited from.
Don't know when, but sometime he exited between the time when the report was made and when law enforcement arrived.
How many entrances and exits to the home?
There's at least 3.
So it's.
Yeah, but there's windows on every side of the house, so any place in the dwelling is a potential exit, and then also exit to a wooded area out back, and then also a roadway in the front, and then neighbors to one side, as I recall. But so you could get out any particular way, and then remember this is 6 o'clock at night, and so it's starting to get a little bit dark, and what's going on? It's dusk, and there's a lot of commotion. So.
And where did Mr. Norwood encounter the bodies of his wife and son?
Upon entry into the home.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
in that front area, is it a living room or dining room, kitchen?
Yeah, I think you could probably look at it as a rambler, typical home. But folks, I'm going to have to stay away from the crime scene information. That is, it's a search warrant that'll be filed in the courts, and then you can glean information from there. But I'm not going to be able to talk about the crime scene and that information at this stage. But be assured there'll be times that we'll do this, and really, I think it's better directed to our Commonwealth Attorney.
So how many times had they been shot?
I can't talk about that. Again, the manner and cause of death will be from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. We know that a firearm was involved, and there's upper body trauma. Yeah.
You had said that the gun, they didn't find him in Durham with the gun on them, but they didn't search the car. They just
Correct.
wrapped it, so that gun could still be inside that car.
Absolutely, and that's what we anticipate. But we'll, of course, we don't want to be premature in anything. We'll conduct the investigation, obtain the proper paperwork, legal paperwork, a search warrant to search the vehicle, and we're going to do that. We've seized the vehicle in North Carolina to be brought back to Virginia to do the full search and documentation related to the seizure.
And have you
Should be
spoken
here.
to Levi at this point?
Sorry.
Very good.
When should that car get here?
When should it get here? I would expect within a few days, if not before. Yeah. Yes,
Have
ma'am.
investigators spoken to Levi at this point? Have they interviewed him?
No, they have not. Yes, sir.
Can you help with the timeline a little bit? Exactly when the 911 call came in and exactly when your first unit got on the scene? Is that information available?
Yeah, I mean, that information is available. We can provide that to you via FOIA, but I characterize it as events. We receive the 911 call, we respond, then we put measures in place to actually guard the perimeter, and then you expand off of that and go forward. So, and it leads to events. And remember, this is less than 30 hours into this. And then I think within 24 hours, the apprehension was made. So there's a lot of different moving parts that are going forward as we go through a scenario like this, especially involved with our other law enforcement partners. Because again, we're a rural community, sheriff's office, and we have good law enforcement partners to work with the Virginia State Police. Again, the Warrenton Police Department's here with us. Also, Stafford County Sheriff's Office, Culpeper County, all the different counties that surround us actually called me and offered assistance from that standpoint. So as we're working through that piece, that expanded our perimeter as time went on. But we have to concentrate on what we know at the moment, and then it will go on from there.
So you mentioned that there was no police involvement at that address except for one 911 hang-up call that led to nothing, it looks like.
Okay, now remember now, this is 2018. This is before the Norwoods moved to that address, yeah. So we don't have anything from the time that they moved there
Okay.
at that address.
Was there any evidence that Child Protective Services or any kind of social?
I wouldn't be able to talk about child, you would have to talk to our Department of Social Services about that. Yes, sir.
You guys tracked him from the home to the car, or where the car was stolen. Was that a cross-country route? Was it along roads?
I think it was a mix. because, again, through wooded areas and then also along roadways.
But that must have taken him hours, right? 10 miles on foot. I mean, even if he's a runner, that's.
Yeah, so I mean, it is a long distance, but yeah, I talked a moment ago about the outbuildings, barns and things of this nature, animals in the fields, that type of thing. Please know that we also had a helicopter up Fairfax County, and we were checking with their floor systems, looking for someone going through the area. So that could account for the time and the delay and with this subject going through the area. So it was an active search. It was ongoing from the time that we started. Yeah,
Wrap my head around how long it would have taken this guy to travel that distance under those circumstances.
sure.
Can you say whether he changed his hair color? Because that was sort of the distinguishing characteristic.
It was a distinguishing characteristic, and as far as I know, he still had the same hair color when he was picked up. And I think that again, you talked about that. That was part of what you guys did in the media that helped us. So we appreciate that.
What was he wearing when he was apprehended in North Carolina?
I don't have that information available to me.
Can you talk about the status of Joshua Norwood, just his state of mind and condition and everything?
No, I cannot. I don't know anything about that.
Has he been interviewed?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi, can you talk a little bit about, there was a little bit of a gap between when you thought he was still in the house and when he wasn't. Why was that? Why did you think he was still in the house and?
Yeah, sure. So the indicators were that he was still in the house until we could disprove otherwise. And we got to the point to where we were able to determine otherwise. And there's methods that we can use to do that. Can't talk about those things, but we exercised every method that we could to make that determination. And then immediately when we were able to determine that he wasn't in the house, then we shifted and resulted in the ongoing investigation and the publication of information that ultimately led to his apprehension. Yeah.
Were there
Yes, sir.
any- I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Any reports of sightings between here and the target in Durham?
We did. We did receive a reported sighting, not of him,
Okay.
but just of a person on foot in the area of Route 28.
Okay, so actually in this county.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many guns were in the home?
I can't talk about that.
Can I back up to this sighting and when that took place?
Yes, it was, well, I'll have to get you the time, but it was at night. And it was prior, of course, to the theft of the motor vehicle. But we can get that more defined information for you.
Again, once he had the car, since he's been arrested, have you heard from anyone who said, oh, I saw the guy going through Petersburg or anything like that, or any traffic cameras picking up anything?
No, we did not, but you did remind me of something that's very important. Folks, I got to tell you, when you see something, say something, contact us if you think it's suspicious right away. There have been scenarios where people have found things, whether it be money or firearms on the side of the road, and they fail to make a report to law enforcement. If you do find these things and it seems odd, it doesn't seem right, these things don't just fall out of the sky, contact us and let us know so we can work a case. Yeah.
And Mr. Norwood, has he been interviewed? Or is he?
Which Mr. Norwood?
The father.
The father, yes,
He has been interviewed?
yes.
And when he made that 911 call, did he indicate that who had shot him?
So let me just say it this way. I'm not going to release any statements or anything made by anyone connected with the investigation at this point. That'll be up and coming. But you can say that we had information that led us to identify Levi Norwood as a suspect, and that continues.
So you had information in the 911 call specifically?
I won't say that, but I'll say that we had information that led us in that direction. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if the keys were in the car when he stole it, or did he have to do something else to steal the car?
I don't know about that specifically, but we also talk about the 9 p.m. routine to lock it up. So I'll put that out there to the community as well. Yeah.
And do you know what he was shoplifting?
There are some items that are reported. We'll get you that information. Yeah. Or what he was attempting to. And I don't know the particulars about the case in Durham. So, yes,
Just
ma'am.
on the charges, are there gonna be additional charges attached to?
I'm going to defer to our Commonwealth's attorney.
Like I said, right now, we only have the petitions for the 2 murder charges. Most likely there will. We're still waiting for the final results of the investigation, but I would say most likely there will be additional charges.
Thank you. And then you said on extradition, he has a hearing
Tuesday.
Said he'd return here Tuesday.
I can tell you the Virginia process, North Carolina and Virginia, we participate in the same interstate compact. The Virginia process would be, he would appear before the judge would consult with him whether he's going to retain counsel. As a juvenile and the seriousness of his charges, the judge on his own could appoint counsel regardless of what the youth says. So I suspect that's the route they'll go. So this hearing on Tuesday, we don't expect him to be automatically sent back to us. We expect will be additional hearings. Now, those hearings happen rather quickly, especially dealing with the juvenile. So if we have a hearing on Tuesday, hopefully the North Carolina prosecutors, who's handling it at this point, would be back in court hopefully before the end of the week to have another determination.
Sorry, so at this point, does he have an attorney?
We don't know. I just from the 3-day weekend, I would say the courts aren't open and probably no. But I don't know. I don't know how their courts work. I don't know if they have a judge that works 24 or does late call. So I don't know the answer. If it was Virginia, no, he wouldn't be looking at getting an attorney until the courts open, the next business day.
And then in terms of the investigation, are you looking at things like the social media accounts, journals? Is there anything you can tell us about?
Turn it over to you, Sheriff.
Yeah, thank you. So, with respect to the investigation, I won't be able to talk specifically about this one, but this is a general practice for law enforcement. We conduct a criminal investigation to make sure that we are looking in all areas where there could be potential evidence of intent or anything else for that matter, anything that would help with putting the criminal case together in a case. Yeah,
Do you know if there was,
Social media is part of that then?
it is. Absolutely, everything. Conversations with folks, anything, yes.
do you know if they're bouncing off of that, any indication or any thing that was told to school administrators or anything about the 911?
I'd have to defer to Mr. Frank Finn with the Fauquier County Public Schools. Mr. Finn.
The answer to that would be no. Our first communication about the incident was simply that the Sheriff's Office, law enforcement, was establishing a command post at Mary Walter Elementary, and that was the first information we had.
You've got a tough week ahead of you, starting Tuesday. 2 schools to deal with. Can you talk about the process at the elementary and the high school?
Correct. We had a meeting with our senior administrative staff and the school board this morning to prepare for that. We're working with the principals and assistant principals at Liberty High School and Mary Walter Elementary. We're basically setting up a plan for our counseling staff to be available. Even though school is out of session tomorrow due to the holiday, we are going to open up both of the schools to the community and have resources and counseling staff available to meet with parents as they would want. And we will be sending some communications out to let them know about that today. Yes?
I'll ask, I can anticipate the answer. Has this guy ever presented a discipline problem in school?
Right.
Where for at?
We are restricted on that due to student privacy laws, FERPA and the student privacy laws. We can't comment on student discipline without consent from the parent on that.
Was he at school on Friday?
I don't have that information, so I don't know at this time. Again, that would come under, even that information would come under the student privacy limitations for us.
The junior Liberty?
Correct, yes.
What grade was the younger child in?
Elementary age child, yeah. So we anticipate there will be, impact for students at that school and staff at that school. So that's where our primary focus is on providing social, emotional resources and support.
Kindergarten or first grade?
First grade.
You said staff too. I mean, we tend to think about students as classmates, but obviously staff is affected by this. Can you talk about what's available to them? Because they're going to be the ones probably dealing with some of their students.
Right. Our plan is to bring staff in for meetings before school resumes on Tuesday and to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what we know and to offer some guidance and support for them as they engage students. How do you respond to questions, how do you address the issue, it's going to be present, and so we will be preparing them for that.
What to look for too, because everybody might not come forward and say, I need help. I
Right.
might be looking for signs.
Right, just atypical behavior, your students, if they're acting differently, behind the scenes, will have set up different levels of support. Sometimes students or staff just need a quiet place to go. Sometimes they need to be able to talk with a professional counselor, so we'll have that available for them as well.
And can you tell us a little bit about these two schools, like how many kids attended both, what their reputations were, just to give us a fuller picture of what they're like?
Right, of course, we think all of our schools are great. We don't distinguish, and they truly are. But Liberty High School is approximately 1,200 students in population. Mary Walters probably just under somewhere between 400 and 500 students. Their demographics are very mixed. Mary Walter and Liberty have a very mixed culture combined with Caucasian, Hispanic, and African American primarily.
Were either of the kids involved in any extracurricular activities, teams, or clubs, anything that you know of?
That I'm not aware of. That may be something that could be discovered under directory information if particularly with Levi, if he was on any sports teams, there may be information out there that's available. Yes?
I was trying to figure out if the family was the mom and the dad and the two boys, and they were all biologically related. Do you know that yet?
That I do not know, so I wouldn't want to speculate on that.
Okay. Sheriff Mosier, did you?
Just what I told you yesterday, say,
And that was the entirety of the family? There were no other family members living at the house or in the community area?
as I understand it, that's correct.
And did either of the parents graduate from Fauquier County Schools?
That information I don't have available, but if that's something we're able to release, we can follow up.
Back to the car.
Okay?
You said the car was found in the vicinity of the school.
Correct.
Was it parked in the Target parking lot?
Don't know. I say in the vicinity because I know that it was in the vicinity, but I don't have that detailed information.
It was.
Okay, there you go.
And do we have any idea about the route you would have taken? I mean, there's several ways to get down there from here.
Yeah, no indicator, no indications of a route.
Did Levi have any connection to the car? Like, did you know the person that owned it? Or?
Not that I'm aware of, but having said that, I mean, remember, this is still under investigation. We're checking into all details of this, and so that's where we are, but there's no indicator.
When stolen, was the vehicle outside or in a garage or carport, anything like that?
I can get you more details about the location of the vehicle, and we'll do that.
And when you were searching for him, did he contact anybody?
He didn't contact us.
Did not call 911, okay.
Yeah.
Any evidence he was using a phone while he was traveling?
I wouldn't be able to talk about that aspect of the investigation, the technologies used. All I can say is that he didn't contact us.
Okay.
Okay?
Can you say if he had a phone on him?
Don't know. We'll have to wait to get the contents of the car and whether or not he had that on his person when we work out the extradition of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to get him back to Virginia. Mhm. Anything?
There was a question about what he had in his possession when he was arrested at the Target.
Go ahead.
I was told by Durham PD, he was in the sporting goods section. He had hair dye, clothing, and a backpack. And at what point they detained him for shoplifting, I don't know. But that's what they had relayed to us, that some of the things that he was carrying around in the store.
What
That
color was
were
the hair dye?
targets.
Target property, not his property, yeah.
Do you know what color the hair dye was?
No, I don't. Probably something other than purple, but I don't know.
So to you, is this an indication he was trying to remain concealed or trying to?
I wouldn't be able to speculate on that. You can take it for what it's worth.
How many officers entered the store and made the arrest, do you know?
As far as I know in my conversations with the Durham Police Department this morning, they just simply responded to a call for a juvenile shoplifter in custody of store personnel. So I think probably a normal, I can't speak for them, for us would be 1 or 2 officers responding just for a normal everyday shoplifting, and then they later found out he was wanted for murder.
So other than the false name, there was no like attempt to flee the authorities?
No, to the best of my knowledge, he was very quiet and cooperative.
Have his driver's license on him?
That I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. Any other questions? Some of you wanted a timeline, some times and things. I can get those when we're done if you want to stick around. But if there's no other questions, thank you very, very much for coming out today and making the trip out here and for covering this. It's a huge tragedy for this community, so thank you very much for taking the time. Okay. Remember hot mics.
Louis, how are you? Yes, Oh, yeah, the DOA and they,